Router bits aren't cheap. I think that's why a lot of folks use the same one or two profiles in every project. They're simply the bits they have in their set, and they don't always have the budget to buy a fancy, complex profile bit just to make one project. But early on in my woodworking career, I learned a skill that saved me a lot of money, and it made my projects look much more professional. I learned how to create beautiful, complex profiles for trim, moldings, and even picture frames without buying expensive dedicated router bits. This is done with a process called profile stacking. And once you learn it, you'll have the ability to create pretty much any profile you can imagine with just a handful of common router bits. In this video, I'll walk you through 3 examples. These will be picture frames, but the same process can be applied to any trim or molding. I'm going to give you a link to some downloadable drawings for 10 complex picture frames that you can make with basic router bits using just regular 3/4 inch materials. Seriously, this video will change how you look at your router bits forever. So let's get started. This first frame illustrates how layering can be used to add depth. By standing one layer on edge and laying the other one flat, you create the illusion that your 3/4 inch stock is much thicker or wider than it really is. I'm starting with a 3/8 inch round over bit, which I use to create a bullnose profile on the edge of my board. Notice that I'm working with a wide piece of stock. That's much safer than trying to route on a thin strip. Whenever possible, work wide, then trim the narrow strip off after it's routed. Of course, you can't always work with wide stock. Here I'm using good pressure-sensitive double-sided tape to attach a wider scrap to the edge of my narrow bullnose profile. This gives me something to hold onto while I route a rabbet on the back edge. I cut the rabbet in 2 or 3 passes. It's better to remove a lot of material incrementally rather than making one deep cut in a single pass. Now I'm cutting another rabbet, again working with wide stock when I can. And here I'm finishing the profile with a 1/4 inch core box bit. When it's finished, I'll trim it from the wider workpiece. And here's the final result. I added some stains so you could see the different layers. We'll talk more about staining and dyeing later. This next frame takes the layering principle a step further. By stretching the inner layer, we create width in addition to depth. And you may notice a chamfer on the lower left corner of the drawing. That helps the frame look thinner when it's viewed from the side, while still looking deep when viewed straight on. This frame also begins with a bullnose. I use a 1/4 inch round over bit, leaving a flat in between to make a finished profile that looks a bit blunter. Again, I do as much of the cutting as possible before I trim the molding from the wider workpiece. Here I'm cutting what will become a rabbet with a straight bit. Notice how I widen it through multiple passes. As I do, I'm moving the fence away from the bit. That's critical. Never widen a groove by moving the fence toward the bit for your second pass. That'll cause the bit to cut with its back side, which is a very dangerous climb cut. Always cut with the side of the bit facing away from the fence. It's not always practical to attach a scrap to a thin molding. In this case, I'm using some good push blocks to keep my hands safe. Here I'm raising my router bit a little bit at a time, stretching the cove through several incremental passes. This is a useful technique that a lot of folks don't really consider when they design their picture frames and other moldings. Don't forget to add rabbets to your frame design to support the glass and backer boards. I make mine about 3/8 of an inch deep with a 1/4 inch overhang. Here's how the second frame looks once it's assembled. This third frame introduces another technique, inlay. For this one, I'm going to need stock that's thicker than 3/4 of an inch. So I made it myself by gluing 2 boards together, then ripping them to the final thickness of 15/16 of an inch on the table saw. Here you can see my laminated board as I cut the first groove for the inlays. I'm making the groove 1/8 of an inch deep to give the glue some room so it doesn't squeeze out on the face of the frame when I put the inlays inside. This frame illustrates how you have to plan the order of your cuts wisely. I'm cutting the second groove deeper to account for a cove that will be on the face of the workpiece. I originally planned to cut the cove first, then cut an 1/8 inch deep groove, but if I'd cut the cove first, I would have removed material that I needed to keep the workpiece stable when I cut the groove. Sometimes you have to change the order of your cuts to make sure there's enough meat on the table for the next cut. I always draw my profile on paper, and then I imagine how I'm going to make each cut and what's going to support the workpiece during those cuts. Here as the cove gets taller, I also have to be sure that I apply pressure near the top of the workpiece where the flat portion is against the fence. Otherwise, I risk rocking the lower half toward the bit, spoiling the cut. I might have even made this final cove cut earlier, right after I cut the 2 inlay grooves. As it is, there's little support on the bottom of the workpiece, so again, plan ahead for best results. I'm chamfering the back on this frame as well. I like a little shadow between the back of the frame and the wall. See how you can mess things up if you aren't careful about holding a workpiece flat on the router table? Fortunately, I was able to fix this with the second pass. The 2 inlays are created with a pair of roundover bits. I needed thinner stock for this, so I ripped a board about 2 inches wide, then I ran it on edge through the table saw to change the thickness. In the end, I created a 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch bullnose, which I added some color to before I glued them into their slots in the finished frame. I like to add contrasting colors to my frames. This can be done by combining different types of wood or by using stains and dyes. If I go the latter route, I always apply a pre-color conditioner. Of course, you want to apply stain before you glue your layers together. I try to keep my glue surfaces stain-free, but that's not critical. Glue will bond to a stained surface. Just don't apply the final clear finish yet. When it comes time for glue up, apply it sparingly. You don't want a bunch of squeeze out. These joints aren't structural. You only need enough glue to hold the layers together. Sometimes it can be difficult to clamp these things together. I find that these bandy clamps from Rockler do a good job on a lot of the more complex profiles. Normally I use my ultimate miter sled for cutting miters. This thing's full of features that make it very accurate. If you haven't already seen it, check it out in the notes below this video. Hopefully the lessons in this video will give you the skills and confidence you need to design and create your own complex profiles with basic router bits. If you'd like some more examples, use that link below the video for some drawings of 10 different picture frame profiles. I'll also put some links to a couple other videos that take these same principles even further, including making crown moldings and even curved moldings. But first, here's something else that'll really take your woodworking to another level. 3M says their Cubitron 2 sandpaper is a revolutionary advancement in abrasive technology. What makes Cubitron paper different is the grit is made up of ceramic pyramids, which slice the fibers of the wood rather than plowing troughs through them like the grain of the tiny rocks that are found on other sandpaper. The result is an abrasive that works faster and stays cooler, so it lasts longer, significantly longer, like 5 or 6 times longer than the cheap stuff, and about twice as long as even other premium sandpapers. 3M Cubitron 2 destroyed Mirka, Klingspor, all the brands that are generally considered to be really good stuff. The Cubitron genuinely lasts a lot longer. I assume it must keep it cooler, perhaps it optimizes the way it cuts. I honestly don't understand how it works. It just works better than any other sandpaper I've used. All I can say is try it. Just 1 pack. You'll see what I mean. And if you do, please use the link below this video, which is to a small family business, and that business is well worth supporting.